There's a lie the soul whispers when it's weary, a subtle deception we don't even know we believe. If I don't feel God, he must not be near. And just like in relationships, we begin to equate intensity with intimacy, but real closeness, real love, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply stays. When you first fall in love, or when you first encounter the Spirit of God, there's often a high. An undeniable fire. It consumes you, it breaks you open, and for a time you live in the overflow. But what happens when the fire fades into silence? When the rush is gone, and all that remains is you, raw, broken, waiting, that's when love stops being feeling and starts becoming formation. Because love, true love, is not just an emotional flood. It is a voluntary act of courage, a choice made daily. In human relationships and divine ones alike, love becomes a responsibility, not because it's heavy, but because it's holy. It means choosing presence, even when passion grows quiet. It means staying when the feeling says flee. It means trusting not what you feel, but what you know. Psychologically, we're wired to crave highs. We confuse dopamine for destiny. We interpret stillness as abandonment. But in the silence, God is not punishing you. He is maturing you. He's teaching you the same lesson love always teaches. Closeness isn't built on emotion. It's built on consistency. Philosophically, love has never been just a feeling. It is the most profound organizing principle of the human experience. It demands the integration of vulnerability, commitment, and sacrifice. It calls you into the chaos of relationship and asks you to bring your full self, your weakness, your longing, your fear, and still stay. This is what the Holy Spirit does in us. He doesn't just arrive with wind and tongues of fire. He abides in the quiet corners of our discipline, in the mundane moments, in the spiritual dry seasons when we keep showing up not because we feel Him, but because we've chosen Him. This is how love matures, and this is where we so often go wrong. We reduce love to hedonistic pleasure. We treat God like a spiritual high, chasing encounters but avoiding covenant. But a love rooted in feelings alone cannot withstand the weight of truth. It cannot survive the silence, because love that's built on fantasy dies in reality. But love grounded in truth, in discipline, in mutual growth, that's the love that transforms. So what does it mean when you don't feel close to God? It means He's calling you deeper. He's teaching you to walk by faith, not by sensation. He's not absent, He's intentional. He's letting the feelings fade so the foundation can form. There is a holy tension between the ideal of unconditional love and the broken reality of human imperfection. We long to be known without conditions, yet we offer love with limits. But God shows us a different way. He loves not in spite of our flaws, but because He knows what it costs to be human. He sees the shared burden of being, and He carries it with us. And in doing so, He teaches us to love others the same way, not because they always light us up, but because love is strongest when it doesn't need to be loud. So maybe the question isn't, why don't I feel close to God? Maybe the better question is, why do I need to feel Him to trust that He's here? Because love isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's just a quiet hand that never lets go. Sometimes the distance we sense is not from God pulling away. It's from us building a wall. And that wall often has a name, pain. We don't realize how quietly pain can become a god. It doesn't demand worship in the usual way. It doesn't ask for songs or sermons. It simply sits on the throne of our hearts and whispers, "Protect yourself." And when you've been broken by love, when the people who were supposed to cherish you turned into the source of your wounds, you don't just lose trust in them. You start to lose trust in love itself. And sometimes, tragically, you start to lose trust in God. Because if love was meant to reflect Him, And love failed you, then where was he? Psychologically, the human mind does something dangerous in the aftermath of heartbreak. It rewrites the story of connection. We begin to see vulnerability as weakness, intimacy as a trap, and commitment as a risk not worth taking. And the brain, in its attempt to protect, builds emotional armor. But here's the thing, that armor doesn't just keep people out. It keeps God out too. Philosophically, love has always been more than a feeling. It's the courageous decision to be known, to be seen, and still stay open. That's where true power lies, in the integration of vulnerability and discipline, in the sacred dance of giving and receiving, not because it's safe, but because it's true. But when pain rules your heart, love becomes distorted. It turns from self-giving to self-protecting. From mutual growth to emotional transactions, from covenant to contract, and this is where many lose their sense of divine intimacy. We approach God not as Father, but as Judge, not as friend, but as Fixer. We cry out from the wound, but we do not surrender the wound. And so we build an altar to our past, and wonder why we feel far from the present God. Friend, love is not absent from the chaos. It is forged in it. And God is not afraid of your emotional mess. He enters into it not to pacify you, but to purify you. This is the danger of reducing love to pleasure. When we seek God only for comfort, only for peace, only for validation, we miss the sacredness of the struggle. Because the kind of love that changes you doesn't just soothe you, it sanctifies you. To love in truth, whether it's with a spouse, a friend, or your Creator, is to walk willingly into the fire of refinement. It means choosing to stay even when it's not easy, choosing to trust even when it hurts, choosing to give even when you're afraid. That's the kind of love that transforms, that builds moral character, that reshapes your very identity. Because when you love someone not despite their flaws, but through them, you're doing what Christ did for you. And you begin to see that closeness with God isn't about emotional highs. It's about spiritual integration, about allowing your brokenness to be met, not with denial, but with divine presence. So how do we move from pain to closeness? We surrender the throne of our hearts. We stop worshiping the pain that broke us, and we begin worshiping the God who heals us, not with perfect prayers, but with honest ones, not with full understanding, but with willing surrender. Love, real love, is not found in avoiding the wound. It's found in letting it become the very place God meets you. So maybe the reason you don't feel close to Him is because you haven't let Him into the place that hurts most. And that, my friend, is where love begins again. We live in a world that chases comfort emotionally, spiritually, relationally. We seek pleasure, we crave reassurance, we want to feel seen, held, and understood. And this desire, though very human, often leads us to confuse comfort with communion. But love, whether in human relationships or in your relationship with God, is not about comfort, it's about communion. And communion, by nature, requires participation. It requires giving when you'd rather withhold, staying when you'd rather leave, and trusting when you don't feel anything at all. You see, many approach God the same way they approach romance, with a desire to be filled, not necessarily to be changed. But love that only comforts and never convicts will never mature you. It will never refine you. It will never call you deeper. Psychologically speaking, our attachment systems are designed to seek security. We want closeness, yes, but we want it on our terms. We long for emotional safety, but we avoid the risk that intimacy demands, and love. True love requires vulnerability. Not just to be seen in your strength, but to be known in your weakness. And that kind of knowing always costs something. Philosophically, love is not merely an emotion or a fleeting passion. It is a voluntary act of courage and moral responsibility. It stands in the storm. It chooses the other person even when that choice is inconvenient, even when it's painful. So when you say, "I don't feel close to God," the real question becomes, are you seeking His heart, or just His hand? Because communion with God and with another soul requires presence even when the comfort is gone. It means being willing to walk through fire, not just bask in the warmth of light. And it means trusting that the absence of comfort doesn't mean the absence of love. There's a danger when we reduce love to pleasure, to emotional fulfillment, to validation, to affirmation. That version of love doesn't last. It's fragile. It's easily offended. It retreats when tested. And yet so many of us carry that same fragile lens into our relationship with God. We want Him to soothe us, but not to search us, to bless us, but not break us, to embrace us, but not expose us. But communion means fellowship in suffering, not just satisfaction. The mature heart learns that God's silence is not rejection, it's invitation. An invitation to deeper trust, deeper surrender, deeper knowing. And that's the same truth that builds lasting love between people. Because the love that transforms isn't the love that fixes everything. It's the love that stays even when nothing is fixed. That's where growth happens. That's where character is formed. That's where your soul begins to take on the shape of Christ Himself. We often say we want unconditional love, but we struggle to give it. Why? Because real love demands we embrace the harsh realities of human imperfection. It asks us to let go of idealized images of others, and even of God, and choose presence in the midst of disappointment. To love someone not despite their flaws, but because of the shared burden of being. This is where love becomes holy. When we say, "I see you and I'm not leaving," we reflect the very heart of God. And when we hear God say that to us even in the silence, that's when we begin to understand the nature of divine communion. So no, you may not feel close to Him right now, but that doesn't mean He's distant. It means He's calling you deeper. Not into comfort, but into communion, and there, in the stillness beyond emotion, love becomes transformation. So many people long to be loved, but only on their own terms. They say, "Accept me as I am." And yes, love does begin with acceptance, but it cannot stay there, because love that truly sees you doesn't just accept you, it transforms you. Why don't you feel close to God? Perhaps it's because you've mistaken tolerance for love and change for rejection. But God is not interested in loving a version of you that remains untouched. He loves you so deeply that He's unwilling to let you stay the same. You see, love in its highest form is not permissive, it's refining, and that kind of love both from God and in human relationships demands something of you. It calls you out of the false comfort of self-protection and into the raw territory of vulnerability. It requires commitment when your instincts scream for escape. It asks you to sacrifice pride, convenience, and the illusion of control. Psychologically, this is a battlefield. The ego resists it. The wounded self flinches. We want connection without cost, vulnerability without risk, and intimacy without accountability. But love cannot survive in those conditions. Real love must disarm us. It must strip away the masks. Philosophically, love as a principle is not just about emotional closeness. It's a binding commitment to the well-being of another. It's courage in action, and it exists within the chaotic reality of human imperfection, not above it. This is why reducing love to a hedonistic pursuit of pleasure is so dangerous. That kind of love is thin. It bends with the winds of discomfort. It's transactional. It's rooted in how someone makes you feel, rather than who they are and who you're becoming together. It seeks self-satisfaction, not shared transformation. But the love God demonstrates the love He invites us to reflect, is a refining fire, not a fleeting flame. It is rooted in truth, upheld by discipline, and shaped by mutual growth. And that means it requires honesty. Not just honesty with others, but the kind that pierces your own soul. Here's where many wrestle in their faith and in their closest relationships. We want to be loved without exposing our flaws. But true love sees the whole of you, the beauty and the brokenness, and still chooses to stay. God doesn't just tolerate your imperfections. He meets you in them, and the people who love us best, they don't deny our humanity. They share the burden of being. They say you are not alone in this. So what does it mean to love someone not despite their flaws, but because of that shared burden? It means you've stopped waiting for perfection and started embracing presence. It means you recognize that love is not about finding someone who completes you. It's about becoming someone who can carry love even when it's heavy. In a relationship with God or with others, that kind of love breaks you open, but not to destroy you, to remake you. So if you feel distant from God, ask yourself, have I come only to be affirmed, or am I willing to be transformed? Because closeness with God and with others requires that we lay down our defenses, that we surrender the fantasy of being loved without cost, and that we embrace the beauty of being loved through change. Love is not the absence of struggle. It is what remains after struggle has stripped away all pretense. It is God whispering, I see all of you, and I still choose you. And it is us learning to whisper the same to another flawed soul. This is love, alive, costly, and gloriously divine. There is a longing in every human heart to be loved without limits, to be seen, understood, and cherished despite the messiness of our humanity. But here's the uncomfortable truth. While everyone desires love, not everyone is willing to pay the price it demands. Love in its purest form will cost you everything that isn't real. It's not just the flutter in your chest or the thrill of connection. Love is not fleeting passion. It is sacred participation. It's not something that just happens to you. It's something you choose over and over again, especially when everything inside you screams to turn away. Psychologically, we're wired for self-protection. We avoid pain, we recoil from rejection, and yet love requires us to walk straight into the fire, into the unpredictable chaos of another soul's complexity. It calls us to become soft where we've built walls, and to give when we feel empty. You see, the true power of love is not in how it makes us feel, but in who it calls us to become. Love asks you to hold space for contradiction, to know someone's flaws and still choose them, to witness their weakness and not walk away, to confront your own brokenness in the mirror of relationship, and dare to keep reaching for wholeness together. Philosophically, love is a moral decision, a willful act of courage that stands even when the winds of disillusionment blow hard. It is not born of idealism, but forged in the tension between what we hope for and what actually is. The great danger of our time is this: we've reduced love to a transaction, to pleasure, to validation. It has become something we consume, not something we build. Something we expect to be easy, not something we learn to endure. We fall in and out of it as if it were a mood, missing the truth that real love is not about staying when it's easy. It's about becoming through the hardship. God never promised love without pain. In fact, the very image of divine love is the cross, the moment where sacrifice and affection collide. And if our love never costs us comfort, pride, or convenience, it may not be love at all. It may just be self-interest dressed up in emotional language. To love someone not despite their flaws, but because of the shared burden of being, that is a holy thing. It says, your imperfection does not repel me, it reminds me of my own. And in that place we learn to stop idealizing and start inhabiting love. Love becomes a shared shelter, not because it's perfect, but because it's committed. How do we navigate the tension between the ideal of unconditional love and the brutal truth of human imperfection? We do it by surrender, by embracing discipline, by grounding our passion in principle, by allowing our connection to become not a mirror of our fantasy, but a window into our formation. This is why love cannot be passive. It must be chosen, maintained, protected, pruned, and when we anchor love in truth, discipline, and mutual growth, it doesn't just survive. It sanctifies, so maybe you don't feel close to God, or to anyone else because you've been avoiding the cross that love always requires. But if you're willing to pick it up, if you're willing to walk the road of vulnerability, sacrifice, and commitment, you will find a love that doesn't just make you feel alive, it will make you whole.